Right now on Brookland News Live, the latest on the war in Iran. The new details we are just getting in. And the Supreme Court takes up birthright citizenship. President Trump in attendance to those oral arguments. What we now know, Artemis 2 set for launch later today to go around the moon. We'll take you there live coming up in just a few moments. And Tiger Woods opens up in a brand new statement. The new information we are just getting, all as the U.S. debt now reaches $39 trillion. Guys, it's been my whole life that we've been in debt. Brooklyn News Live starts right now.
It's time for all the news you need and more. Brooklyn News Live starts right now.
And it is so good to be with you. A live look there in Beirut, Lebanon. We are going to get to the war in Iran coming up here in just a few moments. Stick with us for that update. Again, that is coming up for you here in the next few moments. I'm Jackson Mitchell. It is Wednesday, April 1st. There was a lot of news to get to that we are following. First, though, I want to start with the news we are getting out of the Supreme Court, where earlier today, President Trump was in attendance to oral arguments there. A live look right now at, I should say this is from earlier, excuse me, at the Supreme Court. It looks like we should get that camera back coming up in just a few moments. Trump in attendance, though, to the arguments there on birthright citizenship. With justices there closely examining whether the 14th Amendment actually guarantees citizenship to all people born on U.S. soil or allows limits based on parents' immigration status. I want to play a moment between Chief Justice John Roberts and the U.S. Solicitor General who was there arguing in favor of the United States. Take a listen here.
Media reports there are 500 birth tourism companies in the People's Republic of China whose business is to bring people here to give birth and return to that nation.
Having said all that, you do agree that that has no impact on the legal analysis before us?
I think it's, I quote what Justice Scalia said in his Hamdan dissent, where their interpretation has these implications that could not possibly have been approved by the 19th century framers of this amendment. I think that shows that they've made a mess, their interpretation has made a mess of the provision.
Well, it certainly wasn't a problem in the 19th century.
No, but of course, we're in a new world now, as Justice Alito pointed out to, where 8 billion people are one plane ride away from having a child who's a U.S. citizen.
Well, it's a new world. It's the same Constitution.
So there you go. That was earlier today at the Supreme Court. Again, arguments heard. Lengthy arguments went on for just under 2 hours there between all of the justices. As we mentioned, President Trump in attendance to all of that. So lawyers also, they challenged the restrictions within the Constitution all about this 14th Amendment. I want to read the 14th Amendment to you just to make sure you guys are getting the entire perspective here of this argument. The 14th Amendment says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Protesters, of course, gathering outside the Supreme Court as this is a huge deal, a huge argument occurring. Of course, if you have followed the Supreme Court, you would know it does take weeks to get an opinion back. Now, if the Supreme Court rules in favor of the Trump administration, which is in favor of some restrictions and some reconstruction, rather, of the 14th Amendment, according to the New York Times, at least 6.3 million people would face no longer being a U.S. citizen. Now, if they go on the other the prosecution side, the ACLU, who is arguing against this all, nothing would change. The same thing that's happening now would happen now. So, of course, we will await for that Supreme Court opinion to come, and we will bring you that when it gets here. Back live right now in Beirut, Lebanon, as the war in Iran rages on. We want to bring you the latest update on this 33rd day of the war. Gas prices now reaching $4. We brought you that yesterday. It is always just, they are increasing day by day. Let's take you to gas prices right now on AAA, where we have brought you day by day an update on where prices stand. And again, we will continue to do that as each day goes on. A look right now at the map over on AAA, the current average right at $4. We're pretty much the same it was yesterday. Right now, we're looking at Arkansas, $3.49. Arkansas's average continuing to rise. Yesterday, $3.44. Just a week ago, $3.39. A month ago, $2.60. Specifically right here in Craighead County, $3.48. And if we go to the metros in Jonesboro, $3.51 is that average. So the war continuing into a month now. Trump yesterday on Truth Social, we brought you this saying, well, if you're struggling to get oil, just go and get it. He says, you'll have to start learning how to fight for yourself. The USA won't be there to help you anymore. Just like you weren't there for us. Iran has been essentially decimated. The hard part is done. Go get your own oil. Now, Trump is now saying, yesterday at least, that the U.S. is not seeking a full-scale war, but warns of major consequences if Iran continues their strikes. Here's the president yesterday at the White House.
What is the plan to bring them back down?
All I have to do is leave Iran, and we'll be doing that very soon, and they'll become tumbling down. And stock prices were up today almost to a record. Because they know two things. Number one, we have a safe country. We had to take a little detour because we had a madman named Khomeini who sadly is no longer with us. And we had regime change already. We've knocked out one regime, then we knocked out the second regime. Now we have a group of people that are very different. They're much more reasonable, I think much less radicalized. We have had regime change. We're dealing with people that are much more rational, and it's amazing what we've done. We had to make a little detour. So when the stock market broke all records just a few weeks ago, when it hit 50,000 on the Dow, 7,000 on the S&P, I said to the American people, it's time that we have to make a little detour because we have a madman that wants a nuclear weapon, and if we didn't knock him out with a B-2 bomber, we would have a nuclear weapon right now. It would have been used before today, and you may not be standing there asking that question, okay? So I think we have a country that understands that. I see CNN did a poll, and they talked about voters or MAGA voters, and my poll came out at 100%. Nobody covers that poll.
Alrighty, President Trump on all of that, and while we have not directly covered that poll, I'll mention it here because the president did say something about it just to confirm what he was saying. That is true. A poll among his supporters say 100% of them support this war in Iran. Live look at the White House right now. The U.S. continuing its strikes on Iranian missile sites, drone facilities, and military bases, as Iran has continued its missile strikes and drone attacks on Israel and U.S. positions. Fighting spreads all the way to Iraq, Syria, and the Red Sea. The Strait of Hormuz, at this point in time, closed still, disrupting shipping. Oil prices continuing to stay above about $100 a barrel. Global markets continuing to be volatile to all of this. So important as gas prices continue to rise. Iran, at this point in time, denying talks with the U.S. and allies, increased military presence. This morning on Truth Social, President Trump saying that Iran is now asking for a ceasefire. So there is another perspective of all of this that we are going to continue to follow, and we continue our coverage of the Iran war. We do know that President Trump tonight is expected to give an address to the nation at 8 p.m. Central Time. Well, we won't be here live for you. The Associated Press, which is that news organization we are always talking about who has kind of unbiased coverage, will likely live stream it or will live stream it. You will be able to find it on the networks, and all of those networks also on the news screen there behind me will have it. And in case you can't watch it, you can watch highlights the next day on Thursday's edition of Brooklyn News Live. So tonight at 8 p.m., President Trump expected to address the nation. Now, this comes after a lot of criticism. This is on the Iran war, and this comes after criticism from a lot of people, including mostly Democrats here. The governor of Maryland, Wes Moore, saying this is exactly what the president needed to do. This was before the announcement that the president was expected to address the nation came yesterday. Take a listen.
The nation.
No.
Should he?
Yes. And in fact, he addressed the nation a few days before and said nothing about it. And so, we are, to be clear, and it's important for people to understand this, we are a nation at war right now. And I know it might not feel like it to many Americans. We are a nation at war. And we have not either been spoken to from the President of the United States. We have not been asked to sacrifice anything as a country. We don't have a measurement of explanation as to what is going on.
Alrighty, President Trump again expected to address the nation. That starts at 8 p.m. tonight. Alrighty, so if you're up late, you can watch that. We're going to sneak in our first break of the hour, but before we do, let's get a check-in right now at the Artemis 2 launch, set to happen this evening. We'll have a brief on it coming up this evening, and we're even going to listen into this feed that we've got for you. That is coming up here in just a moment. So again, stick with us for the latest on that Artemis 2 launch. Coming up, though, right here on Brooklyn News Live, well, Tiger Woods now opening up, and a journalist kidnapped abroad in broad daylight, I must add. We're back here on this Wednesday edition of Brooklyn News Live here in just a moment. Welcome back here into Brooklyn News Live on this Wednesday. 2:15 is the time now. Tiger Woods opening up following that crash that he had. So devastating, where now a police report reveals that he had some type of pill in his pockets. He was arrested after he passed a breathalyzer test, then later refused to give a urine sample, arrested for driving under the influence in Florida. In a new statement, this comes after that car crash that police responded to later. In a new statement from Tiger Woods, he says, quote, "I know and understood the seriousness of the situation I find myself in today. I am stepping away for a period of time to seek treatment and focus on my health. This is necessary in order for me to prioritize my well-being and work toward lasting recovery. Quote, I'm committed to taking the time needed to return to in a healthier, stronger, and more focused place, both personally and professionally. I appreciate your understanding and support and ask for privacy for my family, loved ones, and myself at this time." We're now learning that he is headed to a treatment facility, or after that statement from Tiger Woods there, following his arrest after that car crash, where we played a clip from it. We played a clip from a press conference where they explained the crash just a few days ago, and they essentially said it was a power washing truck on the side of the road. He went to turn into a driveway. Tiger Woods came and overtook him, and then that led to a crash. So again, Tiger Woods now opening up following his arrest. Alrighty, American journalist Shelley Kittleson was kidnapped in broad daylight overseas. This happened yesterday in central Baghdad, Iraq. I want to play some video for you. This is CCTV footage showing the moment it all occurred. Take a look at this. It is not easy to watch, but you'll see the kidnapping take place right in front of all of this. There you go. You see, in broad daylight, you see those men walking across the street. They appear to notice, but refuse to act and yet run away in fear there. Now, Iraqi security forces have launched a manhunt. One vehicle used by kidnappers crashed near Al-Haswa, and a suspect has been arrested. But Kittleson was moved to a second vehicle that escaped. U.S. and local intelligence suspect Hezbollah, an Iran-backed militia, could be responsible. Now, the State Department right here in the U.S. is weighing in on all of this. A statement from a person who works at the State Department saying, quote, that the State Department is, quote, aware of the reported kidnapping of an American journalist in Baghdad. The State Department previously fulfilled our duty to warn this individual of threats against them, and we will continue to coordinate with the FBI, to ensure their release as quickly as possible. He goes on to say that Iranian-aligned militant group, Kataib Hezbollah, believed to be involved in the kidnapping, has been taken into custody by Iraqi authorities. Iraq remains at level 4 travel advisory, and Americans are advised not to travel to Iraq for any reason and to leave Iraq now. The State Department strongly advises all Americans, including members of the press, to adhere to all travel advisories there. So a statement from Dylan Johnson over at the State Department on all of this. So a lot of news there. We are tracking the latest and we'll bring you the latest. We got this other story coming into us. TMZ capturing images of Congress people as they are on their Easter recess. Some even taking this recess to take a vacation. Want to play a clip from TMZ Live of all of these Congress people. Take a look.
Interesting one, because when we first mentioned this and said to our viewers, we want to see any photos you can get of them over vacation, we certainly thought Disneyland, Disney World, someone's going to be there.
Right.
And lo and behold,
It took a day.
As
As a matter of fact, the same day. So that's him.
Friday.
That's him at brunch
No, so that was
on Sunday. This is Lindsay sitting there eating a meal
at Mickey's Chef or Chef Mickey's.
Chef
Sorry.
Mickey's.
Yes, Chef Mickey's.
And he was having brunch. They actually responded to us. Lindsay himself responded to us and said, look, I was in South Florida at a meeting with Steve Witkoff and some other government officials.
Talking about the Middle East.
Yeah, and then he got on a plane and he went to Orlando and he went to Disney.
He might have driven from South Florida.
That's fair.
Saturday.
So
night.
we just got this as we're talking to you. We just got this. He is at Space Mountain in line. And that line, by the way, much shorter than the TSA lines at the airport.
Where Congressman Robert Garcia was spending part of his vacation, start of his vacation.
Can I do my French? At the Fontainebleau.
The Fontainebleau. Yes, at
Fontainebleau.
the bar. The bar at the Fontainebleau. Wow. Sorry, France. As if they haven't gone through enough.
Right.
Anyway, yes, there's Robert Garcia. He said he was hanging out with a friend, sitting at the bar. Now, when we called his office, he said to us, his spokesperson said he's in Vegas. His family lives there. His dad has lived there for more than 15 years. And in fact, after we put the story up, the congressman posted this photo of himself with his dad and said, I actually don't mind what TMZ is doing. Like the story says, my dad has lived in Vegas for 15 years. I just finished lunch with him. I try to see him whenever I can. And then he did, which everyone who's responded has done, blame the other side. He said, I told Speaker Johnson we should never have gone home for our recess.
We're not having it from either side. Lindsey Graham told us this. Garcia told us this.
And first class on a plane.
The interesting one, Marsha Blackburn. So we got her at Reagan National. And, boy, she did not want to be seen.
That was Thursday night?
That was Thursday, yeah.
Thursday night, that's
Thursday
right.
night.
Because that was right before the Senate.
Yeah, we showed you
did.
this.
Yeah.
And she's kind of shielding herself with the help of an escort. But
Yeah.
a lot of
I
people.
mean, Lindsay standing in line, Space Mountain. I mean,
That is
when we talked on Friday, we said,
Chef's kiss.
hopefully
Sorry,
we'll get them
Mickey's
like,
chef's
actually
kiss.
in vacation. But him in line at Space Mountain is just like the funniest. Like, oh my God.
And by the way, that's just the beginning. We're not looking for any particular person. There are 535 members of Congress.
We got a lot more to go.
435 in the House, 100 in the Senate. We want you guys to send us pictures.
Alrighty there, so that TMZ reporting coming in saying they want you guys to send them pictures of Congress people on vacation. We do have some new reporting we want to get to. This is from the New York Times here just moments ago. Right now, we are learning that, according again to the New York Times, that the House and Senate may have reached a deal here, and I want to read the reporting directly from them, what they are now saying. They say the agreement to fund the Homeland Security Department represents a sharp turnaround by House Republicans, which is true. I'm going to read you here. This is coming from Carl Hulse, who serves as the chief Washington correspondent at the New York Times. Quote, Senate and House Republicans have reached an agreement to move ahead on a Homeland Security Department funding plan that was rejected by the House last week. Now, this is the same agreement that the Senate had already passed, is what it appears to be saying here. It says the agreement means all of the agency will be funded through the rest of the fiscal year. President Trump's immigration crackdown will also be paid out of funds separately approved by Republicans last year because Democrats blocked that funding after immigration officers killed 2 U.S. citizens in Minneapolis. That was earlier this year. Excuse me. Now, President Trump signaled the agreement was coming earlier today when he posted on social media a demand that Republicans deliver to his desk by June 1st. There is a pro forma session scheduled for both the House and the Senate on Thursday, so that is tomorrow. What that means is that a smaller group of senators are going to meet, and in order for anything to get passed during these pro forma sessions, there can be only unanimous votes. If one person is there to vote no, it's not going to work. So again, that news just in moments ago. Alrighty, the Artemis 2 liftoff is set for this evening. Let's take you live to the live shot we have been watching all day from NASA Plus, their coverage of this entire mission. So again, to catch you up to speed in case you have missed all of this, the Artemis 2 is scheduled for liftoff today at about 5:24 Central from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Now, this marks NASA's first crewed mission around the moon since the Apollo program. So, in just about 2 hours, 58 minutes on the dot there, you saw that timer behind her. This spacecraft is set for liftoff, and instead of going to the moon like the Apollo did, it is rather going to circle around the moon. So the space crew, the astronauts that are set to take part in this mission are already inside the spacecraft and are getting ready for all of this. We want to turn up the volume here on this NASA Plus feed and listen in for just a little bit. And it looks like we're going to hear a song.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
A beautiful rendition. Honestly, I'm a little emotional, a little speechless.
Yeah, that was gorgeous.
Yeah. I mean, again, we are a nation of explorers, a nation of curious minds, and to see us again 250 years after our Declaration of Independence was signed to when we are trying to return to the moon for the first time in more than 50 years, really powerful.
Yeah, leading the way back to the moon. It's exciting.
And that's so important to us. You know, we do want to be the leaders in exploration, but we definitely know we can't do that alone. You know, we often hear NASA leadership say that, you know, this is not something one nation can do. This is something that is a collaboration of nations, and that's why we have European countries. We also have Canada, again, joining us on this ambitious test flight.
Yeah, of course, you know, it goes back to the old proverb, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. And we want to go far. We want to get onto Mars eventually, and so we're going to get to the moon first, and you can't do that alone.
So thank you again, singer Ann Wilson, for that beautiful rendition, again reminding us of what it is we are trying to accomplish for all, by all. We are now back inside the White Room with the closeout crew. Again, backup astronaut Andre Douglas, number 2 there, just outside in the White Room, which is right outside Orion there, with the crew seated comfortably inside. As you can see, they've dimmed the lights a little bit. the crew has the opportunity to set the ambiance, if you will. They were given the opportunity to adjust the lighting as they see fit, again, just so that they can get comfortable. It's kind of like when we are on a plane and you get the opportunity to...
Sure, yeah, you don't want the bright lights in your eyes. Also, you want to be able to see the screens well, or see the, the tablet on Jeremy's knee well, so they're going to adjust the lighting to what makes sense for the mission.
And we saw in that very quick shot there, our best camera view of the two hatches is actually that drag-on camera, like we were saying, that kind of moves around. So sometimes it's hard to show that. So there you have it. You can see that the closeout crew has closed the side hatch. And so right now, that's a panel that they have to close out in order to then close the next hatch, which is the launch abort system hatch. And so, Nicole, can you just quickly, again, talk to people about the two hatches, again, crew module first, and then the launch abort system hatch?
Yeah, so the crew module hatch is the one they're working on right now. They just got closed. You can see he's torquing those bolts down. And that is the hatch that completes the Orion capsule. And then you have the launch abort system, which actually is kind of almost a shell that goes around the capsule and holds onto the capsule during launch. And it has its own separate engines that can pull the capsule away from the rocket safely in the case of an off-nominal data point. So it's actually looking at roll rates and attitude and thrust and all sorts of different data in order to make sure the launch is safe. And if it's not, then the launch abort system will pull the crew module away and get them into a splashdown zone safely.
And as we wait for the crew to complete closing that side hatch of the crew module, let's head over back to Banana Creek, where we have Leah Martin standing by with the person who designed...
Alrighty, you have been watching NASA Plus's coverage there of this liftoff set for tonight. A live look right now inside that spacecraft. Liftoff's again scheduled for 5:24 p.m. Central. Actually, I want to stick in for back in for this interview that the NASA Plus is doing right now. Let's turn the audio back up here for just a moment longer.
Design the zero gravity indicator. Lucas, can you tell us a little bit about your design?
Yeah.
So you named him Rise. Can you tell me why you picked that name?
It was very remote, representing the Artemis 2 launch and Earthrise. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
So were you really excited to find out that you won the competition and that your zero gravity indicator would be going to space?
Yeah.
So how does it feel? We're actually just across the river right now from Artemis. We can see it from where we're standing. How does it feel to know that design you created is actually currently on that rocket just a couple hours away from going to space?
Really, 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 really surprised and very happy.
And very happy. Now, Mom, you were telling me on the way over here that it was kind of hitting you what was happening. Tell me a little bit about that.
It's definitely very surreal to be here in person. It's definitely very surreal to be here in person. That Commander Weissman said that it's for all and by all, that we couldn't have said it better. We're just very grateful to be here. Super, super excited.
And we're so excited to have you here too. Now, Oliver, this is your first launch too, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
And how does it feel to be here just a little bit away from watching the first group of astronauts in your lifetime on their way to the moon?
It feels like very, very happy and surprised.
So if you had one word of encouragement or something to say to the crew who's sitting on that rocket right now, what would you say?
What?
Go Artemis.
Go Artemis.
Go Artemis. Thanks so much, Megan.
I would say have a nice trip.
Yeah. You would say have a nice trip?
I did hear that answer. I would say have a nice trip. You know, Leah, that was a hard question. You know, it's really hard to come up with the spot what to say to the crew who's about to make history today.
Yeah.
And so the Artemis 2 crew, again, ZGI, Zero Gravity Indicator. It's a plushie, a soft toy that is brought...
In commercial breaks, and before we were coming on the air at 2 p.m., I was listening into this, and I'm slowly becoming even more fascinated with the project that NASA is doing with this Artemis 2 spacecraft. Instead, similar to the Apollo, it's not going to go on the moon, but it's going to go around the moon. So the question is, you might be asking, well, 50 years ago, we were able to go on the moon. Why can't we now? Here is a professional on this. This is going to be, let me find the video I'm looking for. This is going to be on Live Now from Fox earlier today. Take a listen. This is an expert on why exactly NASA's deciding not to actually go to the moon, similar to what the Apollo mission did.
Talking about the moon itself, a lot of people don't realize, but as I mentioned here kind of off the top, we're not landing on the moon with Artemis 2. We're kind of going around it. Can you explain the significance of that? Because we know that in the future, in the coming years, we expect that we will once again land on the moon. However, this time we're just kind of, I guess, slingshotting around it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is the stepwise approach. It's landing on the moon poses its own set of extraordinary challenges. The moon is a spinning body. You're orbiting around it. You're moving too. You have to adjust for, your speed, the moon's speed. You don't have GPS when you're landing on the moon. It's challenging. Every single Apollo landing required the astronauts to take control and deal with an unexpected situation when landing. There's been a number of recent attempts by commercial companies and other nations to land robotic spacecraft on the moon. A good number, if not the majority of those, have ended up crashing, creating new craters on the surface. That's super difficult. So, and just more practically, we're not ready. We don't have the hardware to land on the moon.
So we're not ready. Practically, we just don't have the hardware just yet to land once again on the moon. And it's not only that, you heard him there, he mentioned kind of there's a lot more that that actually goes into this than just the part of just spinning a spacecraft to get on the moon. So this one, it's still pretty cool. 6 astronauts gonna head to, or it might actually be 5 astronauts headed to the moon on this Artemis 2 spacecraft. Another quick break. When we come back, the former Homeland Security now asking for privacy after this is scathing a word, this starking report that her husband is a cross-dresser. When we come back. Welcome back here into Brooklyn News Live. A live look once again there at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida ahead of the Artemis II liftoff again set for this evening. We're going to tune back in if we have a little more time on our hands coming up in just a few moments. Right now, though, to the news that is... This one's interesting, guys, and we always, and I'll let you into behind the scenes into all of this, because I think that's, why not? I mean, we're not... Ethical question. So when we were talking about this story, it was, is it right to show the images that the Daily Mail released? We decided that it has nothing to do with her, Kristi Noem, who is the former Department of Homeland Security. She still works within the Trump administration. It has nothing to do with her job, her role, but we did decide that we would still bring you this report. Okay, so exclusive Daily Mail reporting, I want to show it to you here, says, alleges and reveals that Kristi Noem's husband, Brian, as an alleged cross-dresser engaging with online adult models, sharing photos in fake breast and skimpy outfits, and again, according to this report, sending at least $25,000 over 14 months. Now, a former CIA and counterintelligence expert warned his actions could have made Noem vulnerable to blackmail during her DHS tenure. Brian did not deny sending explicit images or photos, while Noem's family, at this point in time, they are now requesting privacy about all of this. So, again, a report that is, it's hard to read if you were close to that, not only that family, but imagine you were Kristi Noem. So now she's asking for privacy and prayers here. Okay, so it's a story we're going to keep our eyes on. If there's some type of update, we'll bring it to you. The U.S. debt now climbs to $39 trillion. That's right. So government borrowing sets a new high. Federal Reserve and lawmakers now warning of long-term risks. Now we know it is making us feel it in the short term, prices slowly going up, things like that. And just a reminder that the last time that the government was not spending more money than it had, back under Bill Clinton. I believe it was 1999, 2000, and 2001. I wasn't born until 2009. So my entire lifetime, I have lived under an America that is suffering in debt. And what's so interesting about all of that, if you think about it here, it started in the early 2000s. It's only been about, 20-something years since then. 25, if you really want to count it, since 2001, I believe is when it all happened. So 25 years. And we have spent $39 trillion of money that we don't have. Now, of course, there has been fixes thrown around about all of this. The GDP, lowering taxes for those big businesses, those big corporations, so that they will lower how much consumers pay. But some experts now warn that maybe that's not actually how things work now. When I play you a video from Lisa Remillard, you should, if you like news, she sends out a daily report each and every night of kind of what happened. It's just an email on your phone. She tries her best to be unbiased and factual. She's one of those that I would recommend you to, and I don't do that for a lot of people because I want you to make sure that, if you trust me, also go and get other news, but I want to make sure that you're following the right people. I want to make sure you get the facts, but then also you can get a little bit of opinion from other people. That's okay. Here is Lisa Remillard.
The United States just hit $39 trillion in debt.
$39 trillion, that's hard to even get your arms around. It's hard to imagine. I don't know if I could even write that on paper.
The national debt is all of the deficits combined, along with the interest we have to pay on those deficits. Fun fact, right now the interest on our $39 trillion in debt is more than $1 trillion a year. on just interest payments. Now, I know you're going to ask, who do we owe all this debt to? And the answer is the vast majority of it, about 75%, is owed to us in the United States, to the Federal Reserve, to U.S. investors, and to government funds. The rest of it is owed to foreign investors. The country holding the most U.S. debt is Japan, but China is the option you will often hear from politicians is we can raise revenue by increasing the GDP. The GDP is the gross domestic product. The gross domestic product is the total value of all the goods and services produced within a country's borders in a specific period of time. So the theory behind this GDP option is to make the economic conditions so favorable to big business, like tax cuts and slashing regulations. So those big businesses will create more goods and services, which means consumers will be spending more to buy those goods and services, which means higher corporate profits, which means those companies can hire more people, which means more people will be working, and then the government can collect more taxes on all those things. Except, according to some experts, that's not really the way it's working anymore.
GDP growth no longer generates the revenue flow to the treasuries that it used to. When we had very low unemployment back in the early 2000s or in the 27-19 period, unemployment around 4%. We had 19.5% of GDP in revenue collection, 98 to 2000, with the unemployment rate around 4%. In 23-25, with the unemployment rate around 4%, actually a little lower, 3.9, we barely, we didn't even collect 17% of revenue. So I take your point on GDP growth, but we have broken.
There you go. So you heard that expert there saying that maybe that gross domestic product, that GDP idea, maybe doesn't work the exact same. We are also learning more about this story. Did the bullet that assassinated Charlie Kirk, I should say, match the one on the gun found? This new idea passed off to the judge in Utah by the attorneys for the man accused of shooting Kirk. I want to show you this report here and what it now alleges. It says attorneys for the man accused of shooting conservative activist Charlie Kirk said a federal law enforcement agency did not connect the bullet found during autopsy to the suspected murder weapon. It says authorities had said the gun used to assassinate Kirk was a Mauser 98, not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, a common bolt-action rifle, typically used for hunting. The hunting rifle, which had a heavier .30 to 0.6 caliber, dates back decades as German-made military surplus, with millions produced and resold into the United States. That's according to experts. Now it says Robertson's attorneys in a court filing said that they have received a summary report from the Bureau of Alcoholic Firearms and Explosives, which indicates, this is a direct quote here, that the ATF was unable to identify the bullet recovered at autopsy to the rifle allegedly tied to Robinson. Well, the Charlie Kirk Show, which airs on a Real America's Voice, which has still been going since his death, hosted by different people now, of course, they are now weighing in on all of this. Take a listen here.
Does not match the rifle, court filing claims, right? What's your read of what actually it says?
Reasonable doubt that it could theoretically have been something else. Now, and I'm not making an affirmative declaration one way or another. I want people to understand that. This has nothing to do with what I think happened or what anybody else thinks happened. All I'm doing is looking at the facts. And as somebody who's been doing this for a very long time, knowing that most people just really don't understand much about firearms generally, and even people in the firearms community who do understand firearms generally don't really know a lot about ammunition.
So now that is a new question that is being asked here in this case, and we will see what the defense brings up. The trial date still, it's going to be a while, so we'll be waiting for that all to begin. Want to take you to your next story. State Senator Kim Hammer expected to become the next Arkansas Secretary of State. Want to show you the results coming straight from the current Secretary of State. See there, Senator Kim Hammer with 50% of the vote, 49% of the vote going to Brian Norris. A close election there. 40,920 votes in favor of Kim Hammer, excuse me. And I believe that says 40,032. Can't see it from this distance quite that well that Brian Norris has got. So we'll see. This was a race that was won in a runoff election. Those polls, of course, closed last night. Alrighty, we are going to take you back out live right now to the Kennedy Space Center. This feed provided by NASA Plus, as at 5:24 p.m., the liftoff for 4 astronauts to head across the moon, around the moon, is set to begin. Let's turn the audio up here and begin listening in once again.
It's wonderful to be here. It's such a special moment, both for our astronaut colleague Jeremy Hansen, but also for Canada. We're here because of decades of public investment in space robotics, in space collaboration, and so for our country, we're very proud. He's so ready. He's been waiting for this his whole life, preparing, training, and he's a wonderful example of Canada.
Yeah, and that's a perfect way to capture Jeremy. He really has been prepping for this his whole life. This will be his first space flight. So what has it been like watching him become part of this Artemis 2 crew?
Well, as I mentioned to you, I've known Jeremy since 2020, and he's a colonel, a fighter pilot, a father, and he really is a very dedicated, passionate human being. So both for him to realize this goal of being an astronaut and flying, he also is hopeful that witnessing that will raise awareness about the value of a space program, of the benefits here on Earth, of exploring the universe and our place in it.
Wow, that's beautifully said. And really, this international collaboration has been going on for quite some time now. We've worked together in low Earth orbit and now going into deep space together. So why is it so important that we have these international partnerships?
It makes us stronger. We can go further together. Canada is one of the original signatories of the Artemis Accords, and Canada and the United States have partnered for more than 60 years in space.
Wow, that is phenomenal, Lisa. And this really is a team effort in many ways. We also have Jenny Gibbons.
Yes.
She'll be listening in on Capcom. What is her role going to be like?
So Dr. Jenny Gibbons has been training all along as the Canadian backup with the Prime crew. Last night, she was in the Orion capsule checking out all of the communications, making sure all of the systems test out and work perfectly. And then she will be among the first lunar Capcom, helping the astronauts navigate during their mission.
Wow, Lisa, that is so exciting. Any final words for the nation of Canada before today's mission?
Just, we are so proud, so excited, and we can't wait to welcome Jeremy home.
Fantastic. Lisa Campbell, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Of course. And with that, let's get back to NASA's Megan Cruz.
And right now,
Go ahead. Ma'am, CBA press has been completed. Did you see any drop in pressure?
And MS1, we saw just a little bit. It is just over 2,600 now.
Copy. Thank you, ma'am.
again, a call out to mission specialist Christina Cook. Again, it was her responsibility to monitor the pressure on the counterbalance system that will help open the side hatch. And she did report a drop in pressure, but it seems like it's within nominal limits.
Right. They might have had a small drop, but you know, we have a starting pressure and an ending pressure, and as long as the difference isn't too high, then we will take that, and the engineers know exactly what they're looking for in terms of that delta pressure.
And so again, that milestone on the checklist of things that have to happen before they launch today, that is complete. The crew, again, still inside comfortably as the closeout crew team work to close the side hatch. Again, a separate seal leak check, followed by a full cabin leak check, and then they will close the last abort system hatch.
Lots to do still in the White Room and marching towards the marching down the countdown timeline well.
And so Bill, again, number 3 there, he is holding a silver flex hose. That hose is what will be connected to Orion in order to do that cabin leak check. So again, it does seem like we continue to march down through the milestones in this countdown. Hopefully lifting off today within our 2-hour launch window that opens at 6:24 p.m. Now, right now, people inside the Kennedy Space Center Visitors Complex are learning about this mission. There are great exhibits there about the rocket and Orion, and of course, our Megan Carter with the moon board.
All right, Megan and Nicole, yeah, you mentioned that checklist before launch. That checklist is going to continue during the mission as well, as there are several vital objectives that we are hoping to accomplish with this mission. So we've talked about the rocket, we've talked a little bit about Orion. Obviously during Artemis 1, we had that test flight and there were no humans on board. That is our one big difference for this one, and we are going to have that crew this time. So what are they going to be up to during this mission? Let me tell you just a little bit. Now, for Artemis 1, like I mentioned, we were really focused on the SLS, making sure it had the power and capabilities that we needed. We were also checking out the Orion spacecraft in deep space environments, making sure that it was good to go. Now, for Artemis 2, we are going to be taking the testing for Orion to the next level by adding that human component. So those test objectives are going to start even before launch. Like you mentioned, they are out there making their way through that checklist. But these objectives are going to start now, and that includes safety. So one really great example of safety is going to be something called the egress baskets. They're out there in the spacecraft, obviously, and should a situation happen to come up, they are going to have something called the egress baskets they can get in, and those zip line them essentially down to the ground within seconds to safety. Another great example of those safety procedures are going to be the LAS, or the Launch Abort System that I mentioned earlier. Just a reminder, that's the one that can pull the crew and capsule away from any danger within a few minutes of into the launch. Now, those are just a couple quick examples, but our recovery teams have been training extensively, quite a lot, to make sure that they are ready and prepared for any challenging situation that could possibly arise. All right, several other objectives that we are going to be looking at are also going to be communication checkouts. That is going to be vital. I know we talked a little bit earlier about all the maneuvering that they're going to be able to do, but we want to make sure that
Oh, buddy, again, also cool. We're running out a little bit of time here, so I do want to take you outside right now. A live look there in Brooklyn at our R-Dot camera here as it updates school traffic. Picking up, as always, when we do our weather last minute kind of here. So I want to take you right now where things are going to look like tonight. Low of 67, 67. By Thursday, some late night thunderstorms are expected. High of 78, low of 66. And on Friday, high of 84, low of 67 there. So forecast isn't panning out to be all that bad, except those thunderstorms expected on Thursday. So we're going to watch for that, and we're going to be here tomorrow, so we'll let you know what the timing is on all of those. Again, school traffic, though, really picking up as we take a look at that R-Dot camera. Now, forecast, again, not shaping out to be all that bad. Quick reminder here, you can join us each and every weekday at 2 p.m. I want to thank you for watching throughout the last hour here. Weekdays, 2 p.m. We'll bring you the latest in news, weather, and more. And depending on the time that you catch me, we talk sports a few times on this show. So, again, depending on what time you catch me, we might even talk about sports. I want to thank all of you for watching. In the meantime, to leave you here, we'll leave you on that Brooklyn R-Dot camera. Thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. We'll see you all tomorrow at 2 p.m.